Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. The clinking of glasses, the faint hum of jazz in the background, and the scent of expensive cologne filled the air. Emily Matthews smiled, taking in the ambience of the upscale restaurant. Tonight was special, she could feel it. Her business had finally turned a profit, and for the first time in years, she felt like she was on the right track. Across from her, Daniel, her boyfriend of 5 years, reached for her hand. His touch warm and reassuring. "You deserve this," he murmured, his dark eyes reflecting the candlelight. "All your hard work is finally paying off." Emily squeezed his hand. "I couldn't have done it without you." That was the truth, or so she thought. Daniel had been her rock, the one who had supported her through sleepless nights, countless setbacks, and moments of doubt. She had trusted him completely. The next morning everything changed. Emily woke up to an empty apartment. At first, she thought Daniel had gone out for coffee, but as the minutes ticked by, a strange unease settled in her chest. She grabbed her phone, only to find a single text message from him. "I'm sorry, Emily. I had no choice." Her heart pounded as she rushed to the closet. His clothes were gone. She checked the safe where she kept her emergency cash. Empty. Frantically, she logged into her bank account, and her stomach dropped. Every single dollar had been drained. Not just her personal savings but the business account too. Whoa. This had to be a mistake. She tried calling him but it went straight to voicemail. Again. And again. Then the final blow hit her like a truck. A text from her best friend, Claire. "I'm so sorry. Please don't hate me." Whoa. Not Claire too. Dizzy with shock, Emily collapsed onto the couch. It was all gone. Every penny she had worked for, every sacrifice she had made. It had all been stolen by the two people she trusted most. Tears blurred her vision, but fury burned in her chest. She had been betrayed, abandoned, left to drown. But drowning was never an option. The aftermath, the days that followed, were a blur. She contacted the police, but they were of little help. Daniel had been legally authorized on her accounts. Her landlord gave her 30 days to vacate, and one by one, her clients disappeared, unwilling to work with a woman whose business had been financially gutted. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was public. News of her company's sudden collapse spread fast. She saw the headlines. Young entrepreneur's business wiped out overnight. A cautionary tale. The whispers followed her wherever she went. People pitied her. Some mocked her. No one believed she could come back from this. The night before she was forced out of her apartment, she sat on the floor, staring at the city lights through the window. She had nothing left. No money, no home, no friends. Only her mind. And her mind was sharp. She pulled out her laptop and began researching, desperation fueling her every keystroke. If she couldn't rebuild the business she lost, she would create something entirely new. She stumbled upon financial markets, investment strategies, and high-risk trading. It was a world she barely understood, but something about it fascinated her. With the last few dollars left in her account, she enrolled in every free financial course she could find. The first few weeks were grueling. She barely slept, surviving on instant noodles and black coffee, obsessing over stock trends and investment strategies. First, she failed badly. Every dollar she put into stocks vanished within days. But each loss became a lesson. She refined her strategy, learned from mistakes, and adapted. One night, after weeks of trial and error, she made her first real profit. It wasn't much. Only a few $100s, but it was enough. Enough to know she could do this. Enough to ignite the fire inside her. The first step back. 6 months later, Emily had turned her meager savings into a 5-figure sum. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about proving to herself that she was capable, that she was strong. She poured everything into learning the art of investing, making calculated risks and pushing herself beyond her limits. Soon she was trading in cryptocurrency, real estate, and high-return stocks. Within a year, she had built a small empire under a new business name, Phoenix Investments. She worked tirelessly, with a hunger she had never known before. She built connections, charmed investors, and turned every opportunity into a stepping stone. And just like the mythological creature, she had risen from the ashes of her former life, stronger than ever. But fate wasn't done with her yet. One evening, as she prepared for a televised interview about her success, she received a message from an unknown number. "Emily, I need to see you, please." Her breath caught in her throat. It was Daniel. Emily stared at the message on her phone, her pulse hammering in her ears. Had been 2 years. 2 years since she had been left with nothing. 2 years of relentless work, rebuilding herself from the ruins of betrayal. She had erased him from her life, yet here he was, reaching out as if nothing had happened. She locked her phone and exhaled, steadying herself. Daniel was her past. She was done looking back. The interview was about to start. She straightened her blazer, squared her shoulders, and walked onto the brightly lit stage. The host, a well-known financial journalist, smiled as she introduced her. "Tonight, we welcome one of the most remarkable entrepreneurs of our time, Emily Matthews, the CEO of Phoenix Investments. From losing everything to building a multimillion-dollar empire, her story is nothing short of extraordinary." Applause erupted from the audience as Emily took her seat. She smiled, composed and confident. "Emily, 2 years ago you suffered a devastating financial loss, and yet here you are, more successful than ever. Tell us, how did you do it?" She leaned forward, her voice steady. "I realized that failure isn't the end. It's a beginning. I took every bit of pain, every lesson, and turned it into fuel. I stopped relying on people and started betting on myself." The interview continued, filled with questions about her strategies, her investments, her future plans. She answered each one effortlessly, a testament to the woman she had become. But even as the cameras rolled and she spoke about resilience, Daniel's message lingered in the back of her mind. After the interview, she sat in the back of her limousine, staring at the city lights. She knew curiosity was dangerous, but against her better judgment, she typed a reply. "What do you want?" The response came almost instantly. "I need to see you. Please, I made a mistake. I have nothing left." Emily stared at the words, feeling nothing. No anger, no sadness, just an empty detachment. 2 years ago, those words would have shattered her. Now they were meaningless. But part of her was curious. Not because she cared about him, but because she wanted to see what rock bottom looked like. The next evening, she agreed to meet him. She chose the restaurant, one of the most expensive in the city, one she owned a share in. If he wanted to beg, he would do it on her turf. She arrived early, taking her seat at a corner table, observing the lavish setting. The irony wasn't lost on her. 2 years ago, she had been dining in a restaurant just like this, unaware that her entire world was about to collapse. Then Daniel walked in. He was almost unrecognizable. He had lost weight, his clothes were wrinkled, his hair disheveled. The once confident man who had charmed his way into her life now looked like a shadow of himself. He spotted her and hesitated before approaching. She didn't stand to greet him. "Emily," he breathed, taking a seat across from her. She studied him in silence. His eyes were desperate, his hands trembling slightly as he reached for his water glass. I don't even know where to start," he said, his voice cracking. "I messed up. I thought I had everything figured out, but I was wrong." She folded her hands on the table. "Why are you here, Daniel?" He swallowed hard, guilt flashing across his face. "Claire left me. She took everything. I lost all the money. I tried investing, but I didn't know what I was doing. I made bad decisions. It's all gone. Everything." She tilted her head slightly. "You stole from me, ran away with my best friend, and now you want, what? Pity?" "No," he whispered. "I want another chance." A laugh bubbled in her throat, unexpected and sharp. She saw the flicker of hope in his eyes and crushed it instantly. "There's no coming back from what you did." "Emily, please," he pleaded. "I was stupid, I was greedy, but I loved you. I still love you. I was scared of being stuck, scared of missing out on something bigger. But there was nothing bigger. It was you. It was always you. She stared at him for a long moment, searching for any trace of the man she once knew. But there was nothing left. I don't believe you, she said simply. His face crumbled. I have nothing, Em. She leaned forward, her expression calm, her voice quiet but firm. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you threw me away. Daniel's shoulders sagged, defeat washing over him. He had come here expecting mercy. He had come here thinking she was still the woman he had abandoned. But she wasn't. She reached into her bag, pulled out $100 bill, and placed it on the table. Here's a start, she said coolly. It's more than you left me with. She stood, slipping her purse over her shoulder. Goodbye, Daniel. She walked away without looking back. For the first time since the betrayal, she felt nothing but peace. Outside, the city lights shimmered, and Emily breathed in the crisp air. She had won, and she never had to think about him again. As Emily stepped out of the restaurant, the cold night air wrapped around her like a fresh start. The weight of Daniel's existence was lifted off her shoulders, and she felt lighter than ever. She had walked away with her dignity intact, leaving him in the past where he belonged. No anger, no lingering resentment, just the knowledge that she had risen above him in every way. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She glanced at the screen. It was her assistant, Olivia. Your meeting with the investors has been pushed up to tomorrow morning. Also, Forbes is requesting an exclusive interview. Emily smiled. 2 years ago, she had been stripped of everything. Now, she was in a position where the biggest financial magazine in the world wanted to tell her story. Confirm the Forbes interview for next week, she replied. And let the investors know I'll be ready. The next morning, she stood in the boardroom of a glass skyscraper overlooking the city, her presence commanding the room. Across from her sat 5 of the wealthiest venture capitalists in the country, waiting to hear what she had to say. She didn't need their money. She had more than enough capital to fund her next venture herself. But this meeting wasn't just about business. It was about power, influence. She leaned forward, meeting their gazes one by one. Phoenix Investments has proven itself as a dominant player in the market, she began, her voice steady and authoritative. Now we're moving into a new phase, one that will redefine the industry. She clicked a button on the remote in her hand, and the screen behind her lit up with projections, numbers that made even the most seasoned investors sit up straight. Our growth is exponential. Our portfolio has outperformed expectations by over 200% in the past year alone. And we're just getting started. One of the men, a silver-haired billionaire, folded his hands together. And what exactly are you proposing? She smiled. A partnership that will change everything. By the time the meeting ended, she had secured a deal worth more than she could have ever imagined back when she was struggling to survive. The world had once laughed at her. Now it was at her feet. That evening, she sat in her penthouse apartment, sipping a glass of wine as she scrolled through her messages. Among the dozens of business emails and invitations, one unexpected name appeared in her inbox. Blair. Her breath caught for a brief second, then she clicked the message open. Emily, I don't expect you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that leaving you was the worst mistake of my life. Daniel and I thought we had won, but we destroyed ourselves instead. He's nothing now. Me. I'm nothing either. I see you everywhere. In magazines, on TV. You made it. And I can't stop wondering what would have happened if I had stayed by your side instead of betraying you. Hope you're happy. You deserve to be. Emily stared at the words for a long moment. Then, without hesitation, she deleted the message. She owed Claire nothing. The next week, her Forbes cover was released. The woman who lost everything and built a billion-dollar empire. The article detailed her rise, her resilience, and how she had transformed betrayal into an empire. The world saw her as a symbol of strength. A woman who had been knocked down but refused to stay there. As she sat in her office, her assistant knocked and poked her head in. You have a visitor. Emily raised a brow. Who? Olivia hesitated. It's Daniel. Emily blinked, then let out a short laugh. I don't have time for ghosts. He's in the lobby, Olivia continued. He looks bad. Emily sighed. She had made peace with the past. She had moved on. But something in her told her that this was the final thread left to cut. She nodded. Bring him up. A few minutes later the doors opened, and Daniel walked in. He looked even worse than the last time she had seen him. His eyes were sunken, his suit wrinkled, his hands shaking. He took a slow breath. Emily. She leaned back in her chair, perfectly composed. Daniel. He hesitated. I just saw the article. And He ran a hand through his hair. God, I don't even know what I'm doing here. She crossed her legs. Neither do I. What do you want? He swallowed hard. A job. Silence. Then, Emily let out a breath of laughter. A job, she repeated, shaking her head. You stole from me, left me with nothing, and now when you have nothing left, you come crawling back to me? He flinched. I know I don't deserve it. I don't know where else to go. She studied him for a long moment, remembering the man he used to be, the man she used to love. But that man was gone, and the woman she had become had no space for him in her life. She stood, smoothing out the creases in her dress. Daniel, she said softly, you were my greatest lesson, and for that I thank you. She walked past him, pausing at the door. But I'm not in the business of charity, she finished. Goodbye. She left him standing there, broken and speechless. As she stepped outside, the city stretched before her, a city she had conquered. Emily Matthews had been betrayed, abandoned, left to rot. But she had risen, and she would never fall again. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.